Hello everyone, and welcome back. If you watched the first three, you know the drill by now, but for those who might not know, this is the fourth part of my ranking of a bunch of analog horror series, and if you really want to know where we left off, then I would highly recommend going back and checking out the other three videos. This one is directly related to the other three, and you will miss out if you don't watch the other three for context. But let's, with all that being said, begin. Okay, I'm sure you guys can probably guess my thoughts on this one without me even having to go further, but to reiterate some of the things I have said in my previous videos, while I think that the Backrooms themselves have become overdone and stale, I really can't say I harbored those feelings towards the short that made it as popular as it did. These shorts are spectacular. There really isn't anything to rag on here. It just makes so much sense why this series is what made Kane Pixels as popular as he is now, because the quality on display here is next to none. And while it's not as good as his other series, The Oldest View, this is where he started off, so I would give it a bit more slack. A lot of the scares here are the best of the subgenre, and it really doesn't feel like anything else that has come out. And just like his other series, The Oldest View, this was all made in Blender, which is just so impressive to think about, as it really is quite difficult to tell that none of what you are seeing is real. And while this series did lead to the eventual downfall of the Backrooms as a whole due to many new people finding the idea through it, I wouldn't exactly blame Kane Pixels for that. And I mean, who would really blame them? Kane Pixels took a somewhat basic idea and fleshed it out to a full world worthy of exploration. It's no wonder that people wanted a slice of that creativity, and it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that the concept of the Backrooms was completely run to the ground by people trying to get a whiff of the popularity Kane gained from this series. And some of the episodes here are just absolutely spectacular, with my absolute favorite being the Pitfalls episode, as that has got to be one of the creepiest ideas I've seen in an analog horror series thus far. And the fact that this was made by just some high schooler is insane to me, and puts a lot of the other projects I've covered thus far to shame. I really cannot emphasize just how good this is. This is some real talent here, and I'm stoked for the film that Kane is currently working on based on this series with A24, as it's going to be somewhat crazy to see what Kane is able to do with an even larger budget. And with all that being said, the score I'm going to give it probably will be no surprise to you whatsoever, that of course being an S tier. This has got to be one of the best series out there on the platform. The only real complaint that I have with it is that I think it tries to do too much sometimes, which is the complete opposite complaint that I normally have. Most of the series that I cover do too little, but this one just seems to go a little too much into explanation territory. And what I really think makes the concept of the Backrooms just so off-putting is the weird, kind of unexplained nature to it. But it still, overall, still deserves an S tier, and this still has got to be one of the best analog horror series on the platform at the moment, just like the next one, which is... Normally, I'm not super crazy about the super basic form that some analog horror series come in. You know which ones I'm talking about, the ones with the text on the screen and spooky music. Usually, they just make me think, why am I watching this? Because seriously, if I wanted to read a story, I would read a short story, not watch a video. This is an issue that is extremely prevalent within the subgenre, and why you'll usually see I give higher scores to stuff that avoids doing this, as it really is about balance and pushing the subgenre forward. However, there are exceptions to my dislike for this boring form of analog horror, that of course being Gemini Home Entertainment. While a lot just do images and text, Gemini Home Entertainment takes the style and makes it more unique. It is one of the few series that actually somewhat unsettled me upon first viewing, as while it does the Uncanny Valley, it does it in a way that's a bit different from what a lot of the other series are doing. Instead of just a big, dumb, goofy smile, it instead messes with you a bit more by making it so the person looks somewhat human, but doesn't behave like one whatsoever. We see things like a guy's jaw moving in an extremely inhuman way, and stuff like that is just extremely extremely off-putting to me, and while I've seen some people just discount it as another Mimic series, the Mimics aren't like what you see in something like the Mandela Catalog. Instead, I would compare them a bit more to the monsters in Vita Carnis, where they may wear human skin, but their true form is nowhere near what we consider human. For example, the Root isn't taking a form similar to what a normal person would look like. Instead, it takes over a host and uses it as part of its hive mind throughout the galaxy. This, I think, is a much more terrifying idea than just another Mimic series, as it's not just another series with humanoids taking a human form, instead something much more parasitic, taking over the world from within and being much more lethal than the ones before it. Also, these parasites are intelligent and have a whole living planet in control of them, which is just a horrifying cosmic horror idea. And once again, I really cannot say I find anything super wrong with this one, but in actuality there are some things I still cannot get behind in this series. First off, the pacing and the presentation, with each one of them following a very similar presentation style. Each one always starting off with a documentary style, then swapping to some disturbing footage, then back to a documentary. I wish the series would do something different in each episode's presentation, but it doesn't, and I can't find it super crazy. It makes it all feel a little samey, if that makes sense, like it doesn't really change too much between each episode. So thus, when giving it a final score, I gotta give it a high A tier. It's still a great series, but I really don't have the feeling to check it out compared to the ones in the S tier. But well, this one has a ton of episodes, the next one does not. Oh yeah, this one is a classic. If you're a member of Gen Z, then you've definitely seen this video before, and it makes sense why. Another video by Nana, who made the My House walkthrough video that I covered last week, this video is no exception to the rest of their filmography. This video is relatively simple, but extremely effective, playing off the urban legend at the time of a haunted YouTube channel called Username666 that was supposedly deleted by YouTube around the time. Rumors began spreading of this channel that showed a glimpse of what hell was really like and contained extremely violent imagery, but of course many of these rumors were unfounded. But because of this rumor, Nana created a video playing off of it, which is the one right here. I've already covered this in one of my other videos, talking about the weird world of early YouTube horror, which I would recommend. It's linked down below if you want to watch it. But in short, it's good. It's really good. It's super simple but incredibly effective, with the images of babies getting their heads twisted and a woman drowning. It's super disturbing stuff. And it's aged quite well. I remember when people used to dare one another to watch it because it was just that widespread, similar to a lot of the other shock videos at the time. The idea is simple, but it's just so interesting that it keeps you watching and makes for one of the best early YouTube horror videos on the platform. Once again, I don't really know whether or not I would consider this to be an actual analog horror video, so I want to just hear your thoughts. Do you guys think it's an actual analog horror, or is it just another good YouTube horror video? Let me know in the comments down below, and with that being said, it's only gotten better with time, and thus, once again, I have to give it a S tier. Sheesh, almost every single one that I've covered this time is excellent. I wonder if the next one will be. Local 58 is an interesting series. I love it, but at the same time, I think it's super flawed. Often considered the one that made analog horror what it is today, I really understand why it's held at such a high regard, but at the same time, there are some things I still don't really like about it. That's not to say I think it's bad per se. I do actually enjoy it. I just think it's a little overrated.
But since we're all gonna die, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I did not care for The Godfather.
What?
Did not care for The Godfather.
Okay, are you calmed down now? You got your booze done? Yes, I know people really love this one, but unlike a lot of the other ones I've covered, I just really couldn't get into it at the same rate as some of the other ones. It's a great series presentation-wise, borrowing much more heavily from public access television and really set up what we know of as analog horror to a T. This series is the original. Almost every single analog horror series has borrowed something from here, and you can tell from the earlier episodes on. However, there is one thing that just really irks me about this series, and that is the concept behind it itself. I really just cannot get behind the idea of the moon being frightening and deadly. I think Gemini Home Entertainment did the concept much better and more interesting than Local 58, and I know it's a hot take, but I just really cannot get behind it in the same way that I could get behind a lot of the other ones in the S tier. And I just don't think it's anywhere near as good as the other ones within the original wave, and thus I can really only give it an A tier. I still enjoyed it quite a bit and would highly recommend checking it out, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the original ones, thus my ranking of it. And remember that all these opinions are my own, and that's all for today, and I hope you guys enjoyed my rankings. Let me know if you disagree or not. I'm sure some of my takes you'll disagree with. I'm sure of it, because I have some weird takes, and I'm sorry about that. And I'll see you all next week. Wait, I feel like I'm forgetting a couple. I feel like there was some more on my original ranking image. Oh.